Welcome to this new chapter now, bond valuation. So dear student, you must know this is one of the most important chapters of your syllabus. In the exam, the weightage can vary on this topic from say 10 marks to up to 30 marks also. In one of the exams in CA final, they have asked questions up to 30 marks, 30 from this chapter. And usually one or two questions are there from this chapter. So the weightage will be maybe 8 marks, 10 marks and more. Bond valuation chapter is very interesting because there are so many interesting concepts. But first I need to ask you a question. What is a bond? Some students are saying James Bond. No. James Bond, Brooke Bond, that is not bond. A bond is a debt instrument. A bond is a debt instrument. And what kind of debt instrument? Long-term debt instrument. What do you mean by long-term? So usually you will find the maturity of a bond is 5 years, more than 5 years, sometimes it goes up to 30 years. Okay. So these are the instruments of raising funds for a very long term. Some of the companies have issued bond which have maturity period of 30 years also. Some of them have even issued a perpetual bond which does not have any maturity. And then what is the meaning of debt instrument? A bond is a debt instrument means the company which has raised funds has an obligation to repay. Debt instruments are such instrument where you have, that is the one who has borrowed money has the obligation to repay. What he has to repay? He has to repay the interest as promised in the bond and he has to repay the principal or the par value. Okay. Of course, the redemption can be at a premium also as per the terms of the issue of the bond. Bond involves obligation to repay interest and principal, and that is why they are debt instrument. So there is a very interesting thing why this word bond is used. You know, between two persons when there is a very strong relationship, we say we have bonded with each other. So bond means basically a promise, a commitment that I will pay to you what is due to you. That is why the term bond has originated. It's a promise that I will repay your dues. A bond can be secured, a bond can be unsecured. So guess who will issue usually secured bond? Bonds issued by government and public companies are usually secured, and even the private companies while issuing the bond can issue it as a secured bond, meaning some assets of the company will be given as a security. In case if the company does not pay, then the bond holders can go to the court, get those assets sold and recover their money. But bond can be unsecured also. Unsecured bonds are issued by private companies, which means that there is no collateral, no security to the bond holders. In case if the company defaults, then they will also stand along with other unsecured creditors to recover their dues. Next point is basic features of the bond. So first paragraph, first 2-3 paragraphs, I will just give you the introduction of the bond, which is important to have a complete understanding of the chapter. So as I told you, bond is a debt instrument. It is issued by government to raise funds, government companies, public sector undertaking banks and highly rated companies, those companies whose reputation, whose credit rating is very high. The rate of interest paid during the term of the bond is referred to as the coupon rate. Now today you will understand a lot of new terms. First interesting term you have understood is coupon rate. In case of bond, the interest which the company is obliged to pay is called coupon rate. Also you can call it interest rate, but the more appropriate term will be coupon rate. So whenever I am saying coupon rate, it is the rate of interest which the company has committed to pay on the bond. Bond can be redeemed either at par or at premium. So what student will do, if the question is silent, you will assume that the bond will be redeemed at par. Okay. Then there are bonds which can be converted into equity shares also. So such bonds are called convertible bonds. Bonds which can be converted into equity shares. There is a separate section in our book on convertible bonds. Then next is bond issued at a deep discount with no coupon and redemption at par or premium shall be referred to as zero coupon bond. So another interesting term now is zero coupon bond. A bond which does not pay any coupon. So why will somebody buy this bond? These bonds are issued at a deep discount, heavy discount. For example, if the face value is 1000 rupees, they might be issued at 500 rupees, and on maturity you will get 1000 rupees. So you invest 500 rupees today, wait for 5, 6 or 8 years, and on maturity you will get 1000 rupees. So they are called zero coupon bond. These are also called deep discount bond because the amount of discount is very high, but during the tenure of the bond they are not going to pay you the interest. So it's the difference itself is your interest. 500 rupees example invested now becomes 1000 rupees after 6 years. So the difference of 500 rupees is the interest that you have earned over 6-year period. Now what is the status of bondholder as compared to equity shareholder? A bondholder is like a creditor of the company. So he gets a fixed income. Okay. Whereas the equity shareholders are like the owners of the company. They get the variable income, they get the residual income. So if the company does well, equity shareholder will get a high rate of return, but a bondholder will get a fixed rate of return only. Risk to bondholder is much lower than the risk to equity shareholder because bondholders gets priority in interest payment, bondholder gets priority in terms of repayment. Whereas the equity shareholder is the last person in the queue to receive the dividend or the repayment of his capital. Bondholder has one more advantage. If the company fails to pay the interest, if the company fails to pay the principal amount, they can approach the court, they can request the court to sell the assets of the company and recover their principal. Equity shareholders can't go to the court for recovery of their capital, but bondholders can do. After this, now one question is, why do companies and the governments issue bonds? Why don't they issue equity shares only? Why don't they issue preference shares? There must be some added advantage of issuing bond, some special benefits of issuing bonds. That is why world over bonds are issued in large number. For your general information, the bond market is much bigger than the equity market. Do you know that? The bond market, the daily volume in bond market is more than equity market, but we as an ordinary investor do not participate much, so we don't know about it. Secondly, in a country like India, the bond market has not yet developed to that extent. So therefore, we don't know about the magnitude or the volume of the bond market, but it's a big market. So that means there must be special reasons for issuing bond. World over, governments issue bonds, whether it's state government, central government, governments of other countries, they issue bond. Why? To meet their expenses. Because government have to incur lot of expenditure on infrastructure, administration, security, defense, and they need funds. So whatever they can print, they will print, but they will not print beyond a certain limit. It will cause inflation. So they do the deficit financing by borrowing funds. But that is not the main reason. The main reason is this one. Bond is a cheaper source of finance. Why it is cheaper? The rate of interest on a bond is lower than the rate of interest on preference share, rate of dividend on preference share. In case of equity, you have to pay a very high rate of dividend to attract equity investor. But here you can issue bonds with some 8, 9, 10% rate of interest. Okay, and you have to pay a fixed rate of interest. If you earn more profit, still you pay that same fixed rate of interest, and that makes bond an attractive source of finance. Bond, debenture, preference share, because they carry fixed charge, they offer the firm the benefit of financial leverage. We have learned financial leverage earlier also. It means using debt or preference share to increase the rate of return of equity shareholders. Of course, this financial leverage will work in your favor when the return on capital employed is more than the cost of capital. If the return on capital employed is more than your cost of borrowing, then financial leverage will work in your favor. Otherwise, it may backfire, it may boomerang. Why companies issue debentures and bonds? Same important reason, cost cutting. Interest on bond is tax deductible, whereas the preference share dividend or equity share dividend are not tax deductible. That is why even if you are paying say 10% interest and 30% is tax rate, 10 minus 30% of 10, 10 minus 30% of 10, you are effectively paying only 7%. Whereas if you pay 10% preference share, 10% dividend on preference share, your cost is 10%. So it's a huge saving. 30% tax rate is a huge tax rate, and therefore if you can save tax, nothing like that. An increase in debt does not diminish the voting power of the present owner. Why would company prefer to issue debenture and bond over equity share? The answer is, if you issue equity share, there is a dilution of control. You are sharing voting rights with outsiders. You are giving voting power to outsiders. But when you issue debentures and bond, they don't have voting rights. So the control remains with the present owners, current owners of the company. After these introductory paragraphs, now the time has come to enter into some technical aspects of bond valuation. So before I take numerical questions, it would be important to understand some of the basic terms, important terms used in the context of bond valuation, right? So I hope you are with me. So tick mark paragraph 4 as important, because first 3 paragraphs will not be required for exam purpose. They are only for introduction purpose. But from this paragraph 4 onwards, now we are moving into more important areas of bond valuation. First is face value. Face value is also called par value. Every bond will have a face value or par value. So what are the usual face values of a bond? 100 rupees, 1000 rupees, 10,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees, maybe 1 lakh rupees. Okay. Now here I am going to give you some important information. If question is silent, assume that bonds are issued at par, bonds are redeemed at par. If the question is silent. Okay. Coupon will be calculated on face value. Coupon means interest will be calculated on face value even if the bond is issued at a discount. Okay. So always in this chapter you will multiply face value into coupon rate to calculate the coupon or interest amount. Okay. To confuse you, they might say that bond was issued at a discount. Let it be. But the coupon will be paid on face value. And how do you compute the coupon or the coupon amount, interest amount? Just multiply face value into coupon rate. And if it is a semi-annual coupon paying bond, means half yearly coupon paying bond, also multiply by 6/12. Now we'll come to next very important term called coupon rate. So those who are studying this chapter for the first time, they will be surprised that the interest rate is called coupon rate in this chapter. Interest rate means the rate of interest which the company has committed to pay to the bondholder. You will find that it is written in every problem 9% bond issued by the company. So what does that 9% bond means? It means the company has committed to pay 9% rate of interest. 10% coupon bond means company has committed to pay 10% interest rate. This rate is mentioned on the certificate, that is bond certificate. So mostly when you buy a bond, they issue you a certificate. If you have seen, like in your articleship, you have seen some capital gain saving bonds. If you invest in rural infrastructure bond or some rural electrification bond, National Highway Authority of India bond, normally they used to give a bond certificate where the rate of interest is mentioned 6%, 6.5%. Nowadays, because of DMAT, many times you don't get to see the certificate. Interest on bond is tax deductible. Now, wherever in the problem taxation is mentioned, tax rate is mentioned. If you are a company issuing a bond, you pay interest, you save tax. Look at from investor point of view. If you are an investor who is receiving the interest on bond, interest is taxable. Interest is taxable. So his income will be interest received minus tax paid. For a company, interest expense will be interest paid minus tax saved. For an investor, interest received minus tax paid is your net interest income or net interest expense. So wherever taxation is involved, we have to adjust the interest for taxation. Next point is coupon payment. What do you mean by coupon payment? Coupon payment represents the periodic interest payment from the bond issuer to the bond holder. Every bond except the zero coupon bond. Every bond except the zero coupon bond pays coupon, means interest. Interest will be paid as per the terms of the issue, as per the terms and condition of the issue of the bond. Usually companies pay semi-annual coupon. What does that mean? It means the company pays coupon twice a year. That will be mentioned in your question. Now as a student, if the problem does not specify whether it is an annual coupon paying bond or semi-annual coupon paying bond, what we will assume? We will assume annual coupon paying bond. Although practically they pay semi-annual coupon, but for the classroom and for the exam, we will assume annual coupon paying bond. How do you calculate the coupon payment? Just multiply the coupon rate by the bond's face value. And if it is a semi-annual coupon paying bond, also multiply by 6 by 12 or 1 by 2, because interest will be paid every 6 months. So usually bonds pay semi-annual coupon or annual coupon, which means in a semi-annual coupon paying bond, he will receive coupon twice a year. In annual coupon paying bond, of course, he will receive coupon only once a year. Going to the next point, maturity date. What do you mean by maturity date? Now here, except perpetual bond. Which bond? Perpetual bond. Because perpetual bond does not have a maturity date. Except perpetual bond, all bonds will have a maturity date. So on maturity date, what will happen? On maturity date, guess what will happen? Two things will happen. Whatever interest has accrued up to the maturity date will be paid, and on maturity date, the face value will also be repaid, redeemed, with or without premium, depending upon the terms of the issue. So that is the significance of maturity date. It represents the date on which the bond matures. That is the date on which the face value is repaid. It is the date on which the face value is repaid. So last coupon payment is also paid on the maturity date. So on the last day of the bond, whatever interest was accrued, that will be paid, and also whatever is the face value, that will also be paid. Now next point is original maturity. What is meant by original maturity? Original maturity means the time remaining until the maturity date when the bond was issued. So let us take a simple example. Suppose the bond was issued on 1st January 2021. A bond was issued on 1st January 2021. A bond was issued on 1st January 2021. I am trying to write. And it will mature on, say, 31st December 25. So what is the original maturity? 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25. That means from the date of issue of the bond till the date of maturity, there are 5 years. Okay, that is called original maturity. Next is remaining maturity. Remaining maturity means the time currently remaining until the maturity date. So let us write the same example. Suppose the bond was issued on 1st January 2021 and the bond will mature on 31st December 25. Today is 1st January 2022. Today is 1st January 2022. If I count from here to here, we will call it original maturity. But if I count from here to here, we will call it remaining maturity. So how many years are now pending to mature? 2022, 23, 24, 25. So remaining maturity is 4 years. Original maturity was 5 years. If I have to value the bond at this point, that is on 1st January 2022, if I have to value the bond, I will say that I am going to receive the coupon for 4 more years and I will get the redemption value after 4 years from today. So for all calculation purpose now, only remaining maturity is relevant. So if I am doing the valuation of bond on 1/1/22, for all calculation purpose, remaining maturity, that is 4 years, would be relevant. Whatever has gone, bygones are bygones. So all calculation will be based on now the cash flow which is going to be received from this date till maturity. Now we have to discuss about required rate of return. What is required rate of return? Required rate of return means the rate of return that investors currently require on a bond. The rate of return that investors currently require on the bond, or simply put, the desired rate of return of an bondholder. Now what will be the desired rate of return of a bondholder today? He will see what is the ongoing interest rate for a similar bond in the market. That means if all the other features are same and there is a bond in the market which pays 10%, he will also expect the same rate of return from this bond, and that will be his required rate of return. So this required rate of return depends on the ongoing interest rate in the market for a bond with similar characteristic. Is it equal to coupon rate? Your question will be, is coupon rate equal to required return? The answer is no. Coupon rate and required return are not the same thing. Coupon rate of return is what the company pays you annually, okay, and it has promised to pay till maturity on that bond. But what may happen, suppose a bond was issued for a period of 25 years. The original maturity 25 years. At the time of issue, the market rate of interest was 8%. So company offered 8%, investors subscribed at 8%. But then after say 10 years, market rate of interest is now 12%. So investors' required rate of return will change to 12% now. So that is his required rate of return. But the company will continue to pay him coupon rate. So the purpose of required rate of return is, it is used as a discount rate to calculate the present value of the bond. So just mention here, it is used as a discount rate. It is used as a discount rate to calculate the present value of the bond. It is used as a discount rate to calculate the present value of the bond. It is used as a discount rate to calculate the present value of the bond. That is the price that investor is willing to pay. That is the price that the investor is willing to pay. Now, next is redemption value. Redemption value means the amount which the bondholder will get on maturity. Okay. So, on the maturity date, the company pays the redemption value. So, usually the redemption would be at par. But in order to attract the bondholders, sometimes the company also promises to redeem at a premium. In some rare cases, the redemption can be at a discount. Here there is a note for the student in bracket. If the question is silent, if the question is silent, you will assume redemption is at par. On your own, don't pay premium. On your own, don't deduct discount. Okay. So just assume it will be at par. Now next is types of bond. So first we will discuss various types of bond. The valuation of the bond will depend on the type of the bond. For example, the bonds are, I will explain in the subsequent slides. Just now a listing of different types of bond. Coupon bond, perpetual bond, self-amortizing bond, zero coupon bond or deep discount bond, option bond, inflation bond, floating rate bond, option tender bonds, and some more are there. Convertible bond, callable bond. Okay. So that convertible bond, callable bond will also discuss subsequently. So now we'll take a break.